Tonight on Here and Now, police believe multiple people were involved in the death of a St. John's man.
CBC has uncovered new details in a months-old homicide investigation. What these documents say about who killed Evan Barron and what evidence the RNC has, coming up on Here and Now.
Police and community groups have issued a warning. Watch out for fentanyl. The drug has proven deadly in recent weeks.
A huge increase, especially among the public.
What people can do to protect themselves, just ahead.
Let's go, Canada! Let's go!
We'll introduce you to some of the local soccer fans cheering on Team Canada at the Women's World Cup.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with details on a St. John's homicide investigation. 25-year-old Evan Barron was killed in April. The man was found in downtown St. John's and later died in hospital with undisclosed injuries. Now, newly filed documents by police offer insight into the RNC's case. Here Now's Ariana Kellant has the details.
Police found 25-year-old Evan Barron here on Sebastian Court, just up from St. John's City Hall, early one morning in April. He died later in hospital, and this place quickly became a crime scene. Now, months later, a story is emerging of what police found and who they believe may be responsible. The investigation into the homicide of Evan Barron is a very complex investigation with multiple individuals being involved, wrote Constable Tara Lynch. The who isn't immediately clear, but several people have been subject to warrants for their clothing and to look for DNA evidence. Investigators detained a 45-year-old man 4 days after the homicide. They took pictures of his body and swabbed for DNA under his fingernails and on a stain on his hands. Officers also seized his clothing and jewelry here at the St. John's lockup. The following day, the RNC detained a 47-year-old man for the same purpose. Police are waiting on results of fingernail clippings that have been sent to the RCMP's crime lab. The investigation also led officers to a property on nearby Carter's Hill, where they seized mail and a mailbox. They've also taken a smartphone from a 27-year-old woman, red-stained jeans from a 30-year-old man, and a glass garbage container with blood droplets that was found in the area. Very little has been disclosed about this case and about the victim, Evan Barron. We know that he was 25 and originally from Greens Harbor. His obituary says he's survived by his parents, his loving dog, and a circle of family and friends. No charges have been laid yet in the case. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
The RCMP has issued an advisory about an armed person in the Swift Current area. It's asking the public to avoid the area of Shoal Cove Heights. Police say they're looking for Marystown man Tony Farrell, who's believed to be armed and violent. Residents in Swift Current are being asked to remain inside their homes with windows and doors locked. The road into the community is closed. Police are asking the public to report any sightings of Farrell by calling 911. The RCMP says updates will be provided. Several overdose deaths have been reported in recent weeks. Police believe the cause is cocaine laced with fentanyl. The powerful synthetic opioid is used for pain relief. But as Here and Now's Henrika Wilhelm reports, even a small quantity can have deadly results.
A clear warning issued yesterday: fentanyl is circulating.
The RNC received information related to the presence of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid, in illicit drugs in our community. Specifically in this case, it's cocaine. However, we would not limit it to cocaine.
Reports of laced drugs have increased in recent months. Advocacy group SafeWorks Access program says while it's hard to give exact numbers, at least 5 overdoses have happened in the last 4 to 6 weeks alone. 3 of those were fatal. The fact that it's being mixed with cocaine means not just those with addictions issues are at risk.
A lot of what we've heard recently, especially in the last week per se, it's been fentanyl mixed with other drugs, primarily cocaine, which is, I would say, probably maybe the most commonly used drug at the moment. It's really increased in popularity, and that's a huge concern because cocaine, it's not even an opioid, it's a stimulant. So are the folks who are using it, do they even have an opioid tolerance at all?
It's important that if you're going to be using illicit drugs, certainly as we approach a busy time in the downtown area for George Street Festival, where it will be difficult for immediate response of an ambulance or health supports, that you are carrying a Narcan kit to protect yourself.
Those naloxone kits are available for free and can save lives. They have been available since 2017, and both RNC and SWAP say more and more people are using them, which is what they want.
Most recently, I'd say probably in the last 6 months especially, huge increase, especially among the public, which is, ideally what we want to see. It's those members of the public that, they don't think they know anybody who uses drugs, or they don't think that it could ever happen to them or their friend. Those folks, we're finally seeing them in a lot more consistently, which is great.
And to those using drugs, the general advice is start low, go slow. Don't use drugs alone or let someone know that you're about to use drugs, and always carry a naloxone kit. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, the province's chief medical examiner has confirmed 9 deaths in the last 30 days. All are presumed to be related to cocaine use. That points to a steep uptick compared to last year. The examiner says, though, it's too early to say whether fentanyl played a role in those deaths. To the courts now, convicted sex offender Doug Snellgrove is seeking bail. This while he waits for word on an application asking the Supreme Court of Canada to overturn his sexual assault conviction. Crown Prosecutor Kathleen O'Reilly says he's scheduled to appear in the Provincial Appeals Court on Friday. The RNC officer was convicted in 2021 for sexually assaulting a woman in her home. It happened in 2014 while Snellgrove was on duty. He unsuccessfully challenged that conviction with the province's Court of Appeal. This is the last chance the police officer has to get his conviction overturned.
Well, there's been some significant weather over the last couple of hours working its way across the west coast. Storms are now moving to the northeast. As you can see, lots of activity, especially the Green Bay, White Bay area. And if I show you where those severe thunderstorm watches are, they're not a warning at the moment, but it is a watch to look out for some significant storms. Now, most of the activity at the moment in the yellow and the reds, that means those are locally heavy downpours, and expecting those to continue to track further northeast over the next hour or so. But if I zoom in a little bit, you can see where some of that activity is. Now, just to the west of Bishops Falls at the moment, there's some frequent lightning and some heavy rain. And like I said, that is tracking northeast. So expect these storms to continue for at least the next hour or so as they move offshore. But we also have heat warnings in place. Some of these storms are encountering some of this warm temperatures. Heat warnings in place from essentially Green Bay, White Bay, the Bay of Exploits all the way through to the Northern Avalon. We'll talk all about it and how long this heat is going to last when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a 50-year-old man from Happy Valley Goose Bay was killed in a single vehicle crash on the Trans-Labrador Highway last night. The RNC responded to the scene of the crash around 8 o'clock, about 10 kilometers west of Churchill Falls. Police say the man was the only occupant of the vehicle and that he died at the scene. The RNC is investigating and is requesting video footage from anyone who may have been in the area prior to the crash. Well, there's a new fisheries minister. She isn't from Newfoundland and Labrador, but close. Deanne Leboudier represents the Magdalen Islands. The job was previously held by Joyce Murray. The change is getting support from the Fisheries Union. The president of the FFAW spoke with the CBC's Terry Roberts this afternoon.
I'm quite happy with it, actually. This woman is from the Gas Peninsula. She represents harvesters. We got a lot in common. She has shrimp harvesters, we do, ground fish, redfish. We got a lot of items in common. So I'm really looking forward to meeting with her. In fact, we've already spoke with our counterparts in Quebec, and they're going to line up a meeting with us ASAP with the minister so we can get some of these hot button items back on the table.
And what are some of those hot button items? What's at the top of your agenda?
Well, the top of the agenda is we need to see that open for business shingle on DFO in St. John's. We need to get back to that. They need to start doing their jobs. They need surveys, they need vessels, and they need engagement with harvesters. something we haven't seen in a while. So that's top of the list. But in addition to that, Terry, we're looking at the northern cod issue. This is an important year for northern cod, and we're going to bring that right to the table as soon as we can. We need attention paid to that. We know we didn't have the surveys, but that shouldn't stop them from ensuring that they're doing their job and they're allotting cod resources for this province.
Well, there were internal warnings last year that some provincial services and programs could be cut back. The reason, not enough working vehicles in the government's aging fleet. As the CBC's Rob Antle reports, the province is finally taking action to address the issue with a price tag in the millions.
Government officials were scrambling to find rubber so workers could hit the road. Last year, a lack of provincially owned vehicles was driving concerns. That parks may not open on time, that geoscience work wouldn't happen, like surveys critical for mineral exploration. There was even a search for rental vehicles so staff could be recalled before the highway construction season. That's according to records obtained through accessed information. An internal audit found that the Transportation Department didn't know how many vehicles were being rented to fill in gaps in the provincial fleet, and how much this was costing taxpayers. The review noted there was no plan to figure out requirements for the fleet going forward, making recommendations to change that. Provincial officials aren't talking, but stress that steps are being taken. $5 million for new wheels this fiscal year, with more to follow. In an emailed statement, they blamed the pandemic for delays in acquiring those new vehicles. So are there still problems? Most departments didn't respond when I asked, but the Energy Department says there are no current concerns. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, shifting to sports news now, it was a big day for Canadian soccer. The women's team bounced back after an early goal to beat the Republic of Ireland 2-1 at the 2023 World Cup. It's Canada's first win at the Australian tournament. A bit closer to home, young players from the Fieldians Athletics Association visited St. Thomas's Church in St. John's to watch it all. Here now's Jeremy Eaton dropped by.
What are you doing here today at the St. Thomas Anglican Church?
I'm mostly here for the experience.
And what's the experience been like for you?
It's been really cool and fun.
What did it feel like to wave your flag to cheer on your country?
It felt really nice because I really appreciate Canada. It's very cool.
A 20th cap for Evelyn Vienne just
And what's the experience been like so far? The first half just ended. How's the morning been for you so far?
It's been really fun. It's really, I'm really glad that they scored a goal, but I think they need to put Christine St. Clair back on the field.
What was the most exciting part of the first half for you?
When they scored their goal.
And how did that make you feel when they scored?
Really happy.
How many tattoos you got?
8.
And now, why did you want to put the tattoos on your body?
I don't know.
How cool is it to watch the Canadian women's team play here with a bunch of your soccer playing friends?
It's really cool.
Is it inspiring at all to see the women doing so well?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's cool. What does it mean for you, playing soccer for about a year, to become watching the Canadian women's team play in the World Cup with all your soccer friends?
Well, I think it's really fun to watch them, and it's really inspiring. So,
why is it inspiring? Can I ask you?
I guess it's just to see all these people that were definitely my age once, and they were playing soccer too. It's inspiring to watch them play.
It's really, really fun because one day I might be with my friends on that team.
Why did you want to put on the tattoos? Why did you want to wear the jersey? Why do you want to wear the hat?
It's because it cheers on my country and Canada is a really good team.
The weather is hot, but what effect is that having on ocean temperatures?
Very simple temperature logger. It's about just less than 13 degrees Celsius. It is still much warmer than it should be for this time of the year.
Well, that's the temperature of the water here in Kitty-Vitty. Scientists are keeping a close eye on ocean temperatures this year, and coming up, we'll talk about some record breakers.
Well, the heat is still on. In fact, some record-breaking temperatures this afternoon. We're looking at this continuing for at least another day. I'll tell you all about it coming up.
Welcome back, Ashley. It's nice to have you back, and some great weather out there today. Wow, just beautiful.
It certainly is, and we've got a couple more days where we will hang on to these mild temperatures. Record breaker again today. I know you've been breaking records for the past couple of days. Terra Nova, 30.5 degrees. That broke the record from 2018. Bonavista, Twillingate, St. John's, 29.1 degrees. That broke the record from 28.7 back in 2013. Yesterday as well broke that record. So lots of heat still out there. 30 degrees in Terra Nova. Same thing for Gander. That is in fact the 5th day that you have hit the 30-degree mark, and temperatures up across Labrador still into the 20s, 26 degrees in Cartwright, 15 though in Nain, and unfortunately over the next couple of days you are going to stay into that cold trend for the next couple of days. Heat warning still very much in place from Grand Falls, Windsor, all the way along the northeast coast through the northern Avalon. Still expecting those temperatures to hover around the 29-degree mark, 28 or 29, with that humidex near 34 for most. And the reason why we're seeing these heat warnings is the overnight lows aren't dipping much. We're not really seeing too much in the way of relief, and that hasn't been the story over the last couple of days. Today, still 31 is what it's feeling like in St. John's, 34 in Gander. You head west, a little cooler, 20 degrees right now in Corner Brook, but you still do have that humidex value in and around 26. And Happy Valley, Goose Bay, you feel more like 27. So I know you've been dealing with the heat for the last little bit, but here's a few tips. Just make sure you stay hydrated, wear a hat, wear sunscreen. Remember, shade is your friend. And the best thing to do, especially when we see these warm temperatures, is to make sure your blinds and your windows are closed. That just keeps the heat out for the most part. But like I said, we've only got a day or two left to deal with this heat, and then we're going to start to see a little bit of a cool down. Right now, some thunderstorms, heavy rain, frequent lightning happening for portions of Central and Green Bay, White Bay at this point. So these storms are moving northeast and will continue to do so as we head through the next couple of hours. Future Track are actually doing a pretty good job as to where these storms are. So as you can see, by the time we get to 9-10 o'clock, most of that has moved offshore, but we are still looking at the chance of a few showers, certainly lingering in Lab City. That will move further east as we head through the night tonight, and then some lingering shower activity or drizzle really along the Strait and coastal areas of Labrador. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot to talk about. We'll likely see some fog patches develop along the south coast of the island, but overall temperatures across the island will stay mild, 16 to 18 degrees overnight tonight. Oh, I forgot to take those off. But we're still looking at, temperatures around 11 degrees in Lab City overnight tonight, and around 9 degrees for Cartwright. So really along the coast, we're looking at those temperatures into the single digits. Now, as far as tomorrow is concerned, not a whole lot happening in the morning hours, but as we head through the afternoon trough, we'll move through, and that is going to spark the potential for some thunderstorms, especially up across parts of Labrador, and then eventually the west coast again as we head into the afternoon, late afternoon, I should say, early evening hours, where we will see that risk of some thunderstorms moving through. Now, as far as temperatures are concerned tomorrow, we're looking at daytime highs again, pretty much from central eastward into the 28, 29 degree mark, hence why that warning is still in place, that heat warning. A little breezy tomorrow as well, southwest winds around 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, a little more breezy as you head towards the west coast. Temperatures a little cooler as well, 22 to 23 degrees through the day. Labrador colder for the north and the west. Otherwise, temperatures between 17 and 24 degrees. Again, you are looking at that risk of some thunderstorms. So if you have any outdoor plans, make sure you've got your eye to the sky tomorrow afternoon. So let's look at your forecast for your Thursday. We're already looking ahead to the weekend. I'll have those details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Labrador students will soon see their own region on their classroom screens. The National Film Board and Ocean Frontier Institute have been filming in Nunatsiavut for their joint program, Ocean School. Here Now's Heidi Adder has more.
Skinning a seal, traveling across the ice on Skidoo, sending ROVs under the water, editors are working through hours and hours of footage. This past spring, a team was in Nunatsiavut capturing ice research.
We went up and we tagged along with some scientists that were doing ice field work and monitoring the ice. And we also interviewed folks, not just about the science, but about the cultural importance of ice and water and climate to local people.
The goal is to create educational packages, material that will help teach students in the North Coast about the environment and how it's changing. They're putting together interviews, videos, photographs, worksheets, and more. It will mean Inuit kids see Inuit scientists represented.
I think it's going to be really good for the school system up here for kids to have access to. And I hope that young people can realize that, like anyone can do research.
Hopedale's Veronica Flowers says a lot is happening to understand how the ocean is changing, as it's a key part of the way of life. She says it's important to make that accessible to the next generation. The team will be back to film more this fall. The videos will then be shared with communities before being shared for free online. Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
Well, we all know how these sweltering temperatures are affecting us here on land, but what's happening out in our ocean right now? Joining me now to speak more about that is Frederick Sear, an ocean scientist with DFO. So can you talk about what the situation is out on the ocean right now in terms of temperature?
But you just mentioned, air temperature, which is pretty warm. It was pretty warm in July here in St. John's and in Newfoundland. Well, the ocean feels the same, right? The heat in the atmosphere will warm the ocean surface, and yeah, right now in Newfoundland we're pretty warm, and we're also warm at the state of the North Atlantic as a whole, where we have reached a new record temperature.
This year we've reached a new record temperature.
Yes, so far, I mean, it's the warmest the temperature has been since we recorded from space. Of course, we're talking about the size of the North Atlantic, which is a huge amount of water, right? So specifically from one region to the next, it can change. And in Newfoundland, specifically in Labrador, this is the place in the North Atlantic where the departure from the average is the highest. So we're talking about more than 5 degrees Celsius above average for this time of the year. And this average that I'm talking about is kind of the average over 30 years of data. So we're 5 degrees Celsius above that.
Okay, and what temperature is that?
Given the region we live in, it's still pretty cold. I checked this morning on some buoy that we have. Its temperature was at 15 degrees Celsius in surface. So I mean, still chilly for a swim, and again, much colder than other places in the North Atlantic. But I think what's striking right now is that first, overall in the North Atlantic we're at record high, and in Newfoundland and Labrador is the place where we're the most above average for this time of the year.
Okay. So how concerning is that?
It is definitely, I mean, it's puzzling for a scientist, of course. There's the scientific question behind it, which is challenging and interesting. Then, of course, it is a bit worrisome because, this kind of extreme will become more and more prominent in the future because of climate change. 2021 was a record when it happened. Last year, 2022, we beat that record in terms of surface temperature. And now 2023, we'll see what's, depending on the next months, what's going to happen. But we might well beat it again or being very close. So at least if confirmed, 3 of the warmest year will be the last 3 years.
So it sounds like these warmer temperatures are becoming normal.
Yeah, it's going to be a new normal, basically. So it doesn't mean that it will stay like that for the years to come. The climate fluctuates from one year to the next, but the successions of extreme, this is what is climate change, basically.
And what kind of an effect does that have on the weather? And because we've been seeing, more extreme storms in recent years, and also just on the life under the water.
Of course, temperature can have all kind of impact on both the environment and the ecosystem. In terms of the environment, last year we've seen Storm Fiona. These kind of big hurricane really pumps the energy from the surface of the ocean. So the warmer the ocean is, the more energy they have to fuel the wind. So that's in one part. Then for the ecosystem, temperature can signify change in habitat. So a fish or a shellfish that is used to a certain range of temperature might not be able to survive or might move away if the temperature change. Also, let's say the amount of oxygen in the water change in function of temperature. So the warmer the temperature is, the less oxygen they have. So for some species, it might be a problem. This decline of oxygen doesn't mean they will necessarily die, but they may be less fit for reproduction or for growth.
I'm sure you're going to be keeping a close eye on all of this. Frederick Sear, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Certainly the presence is increasing, as unfortunately are the overdoses.
Fentanyl is cropping up in drugs like cocaine with deadly consequences. How to best protect yourself and others, just ahead. Earlier in the show, Henrika Wilhelm reported about a series of overdoses in the province, some of which have been deadly. Police are pointing the finger at fentanyl, which has recently been found in cocaine. Now, they're stressing the importance of naloxone kits, saying they can save a life. One of the places you can get those kits is the Safe Works Access Program, or SWAP. We dropped by for a tutorial.
So in the last, say couple weeks, couple months, there's definitely been increasing reports of fentanyl mixed in, with other drugs like say cocaine, but also, folks are wanting to use that. It's, it's a commonly used drug because people's tolerances are very high. So certainly the presence is increasing, as unfortunately are the overdoses. Currently in our naloxone kits, there are 3 doses of naloxone, as well as 3 needles, 1 for each dose. There is a CPR face shield because breathing is a large part of naloxone. Naloxone, it saves bodies, but it doesn't save brains. You've also got your rubber gloves, just should you feel so inclined to use them, depending on, who that person is to you. And there's also a couple of different information sheets in terms of how to use the naloxone. So you've got your 3 vials in your kit. Take one and please leave the rubber cap on it because you're going to crack it and you don't want the glass to shatter, so you waste a dose. So when you remove 1 dose, give it a little shake. Sometimes some of the liquid is trapped up here, so you want to make sure it's all on the bottom. And you're basically just going to crack it like so, ideally away from yourself. So all the needles in the kits, they open like cheese strings. So once your needle is removed, you want to take the cap straight off. Please don't twist it because that'll remove the entire needle tip. The needles are a fair size. They're going into the muscle, and they're also going through clothing in most cases. So in terms of actually getting the naloxone into the needle, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Do what feels comfortable, be it 2 hands, 1 hand, whatever. Personally, I hold the vial in 1 hand and I insert the needle. And then you're going to draw it up. I do it with my thumb. Again, no right or wrong way. Do what feels comfy. And once I've gotten, most everything, into the needle, flip it upside down, push out the pocket of air that's here, and you're good to go. So naloxone, it's injected both through clothing and into a muscle. So that leaves the upper arms, thighs. You want to go in at a 90-degree angle, and you're just going to push it in. If you keep pushing the plunger down through, it'll click a couple times, and that causes the needle tip to actually retract. But again, that has no bearing on the efficacy of the naloxone. It's more so just for the folks administering it. Then you don't have kind of loose sharps around.
Well, did you go see it in person? 26 years ago, the Matthew was touring around Newfoundland and Labrador with tens of thousands of people checking out the replica of the ship that John Cabot sailed across the North Atlantic in 1497. Here's what it was like back in 1997 when the ship arrived in St. John's.
Thousands of people turned up on the waterfront in St. John's this afternoon to celebrate Canada Day and to check out the Matthew.
Well, I waited about an hour and a half, and I think it's great because you get to go on the ship, you get to, you have a tour of it and everything. It's really good.
It's different than the other boats.
I'd ask, how's the ride?
I can't even imagine coming across the Atlantic on this. Like, where's the proof?
Organizers expect 5,000 curious spectators will swing across the gangplank by the end of the day. There was other entertainment too. The armed forces held a traditional gun run. 2 teams racing to see which can dismantle and move a 2,500-pound cannon faster. It only took minutes, and the crowd loved it.
I think it's all wonderful.
How does it compare to other July 1sts?
10 times better. 10 times better. Lots of people. Weather is almost bearable. And it's just so great to see all these crowds down here.
Well, have you ever wondered, where is the Matthew now? Well, it's actually still in the water in Bristol, England, where it was built and where it sailed from 26 years ago. Royston Griffey is chair of the Matthew Trust, and he joins us now from Bristol. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome to the City and County of Bristol. Welcome to Canada.
Oh, thank you. Can you start by telling us what the Matthew is used for these days?
Well, it's used as it's been for the last 20 odd years since it came back from Canada, mainly for going around the Bristol Harbour, down the River Avon under the suspension bridge, and there's trips out most nights. There's probably one going on now, if I should have checked that perhaps, and then taking schools around who are mainly children from primary schools learning about Tudor history, for instance.
Right, so the
So it's
vessel
well used.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like it's definitely well used for sure. And, you know, the Matthew replica that's in Bonavista is not getting as much use as the one over with you. Ours is in dry dock now, basically. The upkeep of it was too expensive, so it can't go in the water anymore. But can you give us an idea of how much maintenance it does take to keep the Bristol Matthew seaworthy?
Well, it's continuous maintenance now. The ship is getting on. It's 26 years old or more. In medieval times, they only lasted about 10 to 15 years. So with good maintenance, it will last as long as we keep pouring in the money.
About how much is it to keep it going?
Oh, at least £100,000. You have to convert that to Canadian dollars, but a fair sum. The ship comes out of the water every year for its annual maintenance and check by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, and without that, we couldn't. With those inspections, we couldn't go to sea or take passengers or really operate at all.
What is it about the Matthew that so much time and energy and money goes into keeping this vessel operating on the water?
Well, we think it's part of our history. Bristol has been a seaport for 1,000 years or more, and the original Matthew left Bristol in 1497. 526 years ago. So it's part of Bristol's history, and we want to keep it that way as far as we can.
A lot has changed since that 500th anniversary celebration in Bonavista. The conversation about discovery and colonization has definitely changed. There's a real recognition now of the impacts on Indigenous peoples. What's changed about the way that you tell the story of the Matthew?
Well, we're particularly sensitive to Native American tribes and so on, and America and Canada were already there, of course. It wasn't, quote, discovered. So we've completely dropped the term discovery, and we emphasize that John Cabot's voyages, which in fact they were, of course, were voyages of exploration. They certainly were not voyages of exploitation and colonization and so on. Unfortunately, that came later. But the Matthew has got clean hands in that respect, and we certainly emphasize that there were people already in the newfound lands. It wasn't just purely the Europeans stepping ashore and claiming something that was already belonged by other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Royston Griffey, it was lovely to speak with you. It's nice to see that the Matthew over there is being put to good use. It's a shared piece of history between our two places. So thank you so much for telling us about it.
Thank you very much.
Well, as you heard earlier, big cabinet shuffle in Ottawa today. Our local MPs, Seamus O'Regan, stays put in Labour and takes on the seniors portfolio, and Goody Hutchings remains in rural economic development, but is now also responsible for ACOA. In total, 20 ministers have new or expanded portfolios.
What a team. I am so excited about putting forward this incredible team.
7 ministers have been dropped out of cabinet as Justice Minister David Lametti replaced by Toronto MP Arif Virani. Also leaving cabinet are Public Security Minister Marco Mendicino and Treasury Board President Mona Fortier. Defense Minister Anita Anand takes over Treasury. Bill Blair replaces her at Defense. The other ministers leaving cabinet had already signaled they would not run in the next election. And earlier in the show, Jeremy brought us some local reaction to Canada's winning World Cup game against Ireland. Team Canada has moved a lot closer to making the next round. The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe looks at today's victory and the hurdles the Canadians overcame to gain it.
It pretty much felt like Ireland here in Perth today. For one, there was the crowd, an absolute sea of green. More than 17,000 people in the stadium, most of them cheering for Ireland and against Canada. And then there was the rain coming down in sheets at points during the match, making it difficult for the players to maneuver. Ireland scored first, Katie McCabe with a rare goal direct from the corner. Canada looked shaky, getting on the board with an own goal from Ireland ahead of the half. But what a difference in that second half. Experienced players subbing in. Christine Sinclair and Sophie Schmidt changed the tone of play. A goal from Adriana Leon gave Canada the lead, and they held it.
I think at the beginning of the game, they were outplaying us in every part of the game. So I think it was good that the team was able to respond and kind of take that under our chin and step up. And the first half was not good enough. So I think it's good for us to come in, and we weren't happy with our performance in the first half, and to be able to change that.
I think we just, we brought our confidence, and we brought that mindset of, we're like Olympic champions, and, we just brought some composure on the ball. We kept the ball, and, we fought a little harder than we did in the first.
With a draw in the first match and now a win, Canada has a much clearer path out of the group stage and into the knockout round. Some concerning news at the end of this match. Captain Christine Sinclair was limping and is being assessed for injury. Now, Canada is going to have to get used to what they had here today with that crowd cheering against them, because the next match is against the hosts, Australia. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Perth.
Well, staying with some sports news, some great news today from the World Aquatics Championships in Japan. Canadian Summer McIntosh won a medal in the women's 200-meter freestyle. Here's a look at the end of the race.
Here comes Titmus, battling for the world record, battling with her teammate, O'Callaghan inching ahead. It's going to be O'Callaghan gold, Titmus silver, McIntosh world junior record and bronze medal for Canada.
Yeah, McIntosh is 16 years old and comes from Toronto. Today she won a bronze medal and set a world junior record in the process. Junior records apply to swimmers under the age of 18. The gold and silver went to Australian swimmers. The winner, 19-year-old Molly O'Callaghan, set a new world record. Well, speaking of out of this world, a former Air Force intelligence official testified today that the U.S. is concealing a program that investigates the remains of unidentified flying objects. And retired Major David Grush says he's faced retaliation for revealing it.
I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with.
Well, it came in a congressional hearing into what the U.S. government calls unidentified aerial phenomena. Other witnesses testified that the U.S. military is aware of regular sightings. For its part, the Pentagon denies any cover-up. Well, generation, or Gen Z, refers to those born between 1997 and 2012. And like every generation before them, they have their own unique catchphrases. Now, you may recall we recently asked our intern Amy Fian to head to a St. John Seniors home to see if the folks there were hip to the new lingo. Well, this week she's brought the quiz a little bit closer to home, asking our own colleagues here at CBC.
Drip.
It's a fashion thing.
Yeah.
You're dressed properly. I do not have the drip. I got the CBC drip.
Oh yeah, exactly. CBC drip. Here and now. Shout out here and now. The word bougie.
Oh, fancy, expensive, classy.
Yes, perfect. That is a point for Joanne. What is a stan?
Is that when you want, there's two people that you think would really be, no, that's shipping.
Basically, if you had someone who's a big fan of you, they'd be like, oh my God, I stan Peter Cowan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you've got plenty of stans probably. If I were to say it's good for the plot.
Nah, I'm lost.
If something like bad happens in your life or something like drama's going on, you're just like, oh, it's good for the plot. Like your life's like a TV show, because obviously the audience wouldn't tune in if it was just happy all the time.
So it meant plot.
Yeah, like actual.
That's not a new word.
No.
That's not
You didn't get it right. Simp.
Simply beautiful day. It's a simply gorgeous day.
That is so beautiful, Mark Quinn, but it's wrong. If you are really in love with someone and you think that they're beautiful and they're nice, you are a simp for them. If I were to say someone's living rent-free, what does that mean?
You mean, so if someone's living rent-free in my mind, meaning that they're taking up a lot of space because I'm thinking about them all the time?
Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, mic drop. I can't actually do it because I won't damage CBC equipment.
That's an expensive
microphone.
Oh, funny. Amy came over to me and asked me if I would like to take her quiz, and I was like, nope. And I will say that Peter Cowan did get 2 of the 3 correct that he was asked.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got any of them, I don't think. But that's okay. I do have nieces, but they're not Gen Z. But anyway.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun. Okay, so looking at the long-range forecast now, get to look ahead to the weekend. How are things shaping up?
Well, for those of you that are interested in things cooling down, you will be very happy with this forecast. It does look like we'll see things, start to get a little bit more comfortable out there. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. So this is your Friday forecast. Now, there is a chance we may see a few showers roll through eastern portions of, or at least the Avalon anyway, but those temperatures are still going to stay quite warm for essentially central and eastern Newfoundland. We're still talking about temperatures between 26 and 28 degrees. I do think that the heat warnings will end, but this is what you're looking at. So the rest of the island will see some your temperatures between 22 and about 25 degrees through the day up across Labrador. Again, hanging on to those cool temperatures to the north. About 10 degrees in Nain. Otherwise, between 15 and 18. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, you will be the warm spot, hovering around 23 degrees through your Friday. Now, the cool down is coming, and it will come by the time we get into Sunday, it looks like. And the reason for that is a wind shift. We've been in a constant southerly or southwesterly flow. It also means, though, that areas along the southern portion of the island are going to see some warmer temperatures, which is nice to change that up a bit. But again, those areas all along the northeast coast where you see those onshore flows, those temperatures will be cooler, and that will be the story up across Labrador. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that is going to continue as we head into at least the beginning of next week. By the time we get into the middle of next week, we should start to see some of that warming happen again. So by the time we look into Friday evening, there's that chance of showers that I was talking about. There's a few models pointing at that, but if that happens, that will move through fairly quickly. By the time we get into Saturday afternoon, another round of showers will move through. We may even see the risk of a few rumbles of thunder with this one, but overall it will be an unsettled Saturday for most of us. Our temperatures are going to stay into the mid-20s for most of eastern Newfoundland, even heading towards central, low to mid-30s, 20s rather. And as you head towards the west coast, those temperatures will be a tad cooler, only about 16 to 18 degrees or 19 degrees as your daytime highs. Temperatures across Labrador as well, much cooler, between 10 to 18 as your daytime highs. highs. Here's a look at the long range forecast. There's that cool down I was talking about. It's about 19 degrees by the time we get into Monday. And then for central and eastern Newfoundland, or central Newfoundland and western Newfoundland, rather, you're looking at your temperatures between about 17 and 18, but warming up as we head into Monday. And then for Labrador, eastern Labrador anyway, your temperatures are going to stay into the upper teens. Chance of showers by the time we get into Monday. And western Labrador, 13 to 15 is your daytime highs. Your overnight lows into the single digits. Just before we leave you tonight, I love this photo. I love everything about it, but this one is the sunset in the Cadre Valley. Thank you to Sandra for that photo. And if you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to my Facebook page. But the best place is nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that is stunning. Beautiful shot. Now, before we leave you, we do have a quick update on the situation in Swift Current. Police are still telling residents to remain inside with their doors and windows locked while they continue searching for Tony Farrell. The road through Swift Current has been closed, and we'll continue to follow this story online at cbc.ca/NL. And that's it for us. Good night.
Good night.